Good afternoon, everybody from all over the world. This webinar is devoted to the women's career in the evolving hydrogen economy, and I hope it will be useful for you. And my name is Maria Grineva. I work for UNIDO on hydrogen program, and today we have excellent women who are joining us as speakers. And as we often hear that hydrogen creates new that promises job opportunities and social benefits. So let's explore together with our wonderful experts. So what really this transition means in terms of the women career. And we have the experts from industry, from the governmental organizations, and also from recruitment, because it's very important to consider different views. We don't live in a vacuum, and there are different factors that shape the opportunities. So let's consider different, perspectives. And we will likely not be able to address your questions, but please stay with us until the end, because we have an audience poll at the end of the session where we will collect your inputs, your ideas for the following webinars. And yes, and this also will be recorded today, and you will be able to find on our website. I will place the link to our website during the webinar. And yes, and you also can find something interesting in the chat now. You can, while I'll give already present the first speaker, you can already connect to the page via the link in the chat or using your mobile phone. So because we will need it a little bit later. And now I'm delighted to present the two speakers for the welcome remarks. It's Mrs. Petra Schwager, the Chief of the Climate and Technology Partnerships Division at UNIDO, and also Ms. Alessia Dadabo from the Women in Green Hydrogen. She is a partnership lead. So please, ladies, join us. Petra, please, could you please start? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria. And first of all, apologies that you just see my photo and not my camera. I have some issues with the camera, but I hope that you can hear me well. It's indeed a great pleasure to co-organize this webinar with the Women in Green Hydrogen. For me personally, the involvement of women is very close to my heart. And when we started some 3-4 years ago, when we started the global program for hydrogen in industry, one of the first organizations organizations that we reached out were actually the Women in Green Hydrogen, because we are always looking for young talents, for women to get involved and to cooperate. I believe that it is so important to have women in technical fields. It just makes the whole discussion richer. Women come in with a different perspective. We have a more balanced approach sometimes to how we see things, how we move difficult topics like green hydrogen forward. So this balance between the different interests, I think women are very good. It should not be just a man's world. It's not just a man's world. We need both of us to be there and to bring in our ideas. So again, I would like to thank you for joining us today in this event. Also the ladies that are speaking from the different countries, many of whom, like Rebecca, have been working with us for so many years in moving green hydrogen forward in South Africa, but also at the global stage. It's also nice to see Camilla from my team. So just to name a few, thank you very much. And back to you, Maria, for the start.
Maria, you're muted, I think.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I was
thinking
good.
I guess I'm going to take the word.
Yes, thank you, Petra, very much for a positive start. And I would like to invite Alessia Dadabo from our partner organization, Women in Green Hydrogen. Please, Alessia.
Yes, thanks a lot. And well, on behalf of Women in Green Hydrogen, I also would like to thank you and for all the organization, and also UNIDO as partner, and also to show this great support and engagement with our activities, and also to contribute to our mission of bringing more women into this hydrogen sector. I'm really excited. It's a real pleasure to host this webinar with you today. And I'm also excited to see a lot of attendees that want to discuss with us the topic about career development in hydrogen, and also how can we all contribute to building a sector that is not just innovative, but also diverse and inclusive. Also, we have some of the women in our network as speakers today, so I'm quite excited to hear what their perspective is about how to navigate this hydrogen sector when it comes to career development, and also how to stand out when navigating a career opportunity in the hydrogen sector. I worked myself for quite some time with hydrogen, and I find it quite an exciting sector, and is evolving, is ever evolving. Every year is different with new challenges, but also new opportunities from both a market perspective, but also technology development and application. So there is definitely space for bringing new women on stage, and also in the whole hydrogen economy. And there is also, it is affected belonging to the broader energy sector. We see that the sector is still quite male-dominated, especially when it comes to public presence of women. So that is also one of the core objective of a network such as WiGH. So yeah, I would also like to, for those of you maybe who don't know what Women in Green Hydrogen is, spend a couple of words to introduce very briefly the network. And perhaps if you're interested, of course, I will leave you the link into the chat so you can take a look at our initiatives. So yeah, WiGH is an international network which started a few years ago with the mission of spotlighting the women working in the green hydrogen sector. And specifically because we saw that the hydrogen events, women were underrepresented both in the audience and on stage. And that is something that we wanted to change, as we all personally knew at least other women working in the hydrogen sector. So definitely women are there, but they're perhaps not so visible. And the network grew from a small dedicated group of women into a global initiative with a lot of professionals that are now connected and empowering each other. So yeah, the purpose of WiGH is really to create the space for visibility and opportunities to learn, and collaboration with the partners such as UNIDO is in a great way to amplify our effort. So yes, I'm very grateful for this webinar today. So without further ado, I would leave back the word to Maria and introduce our speakers.
Yes, thank you so much, Alessia. Thank you. Before we go into discussion, I would like to invite you to visit a chat. You find there a link and also QR code, so you can use your phone and you can use direct link. We would like just to learn our audience today a little bit better, to understand, yes, the representation of women, of men today, and then we continue with the discussion. So yes, I will. So yes, and we can actually start with the first small panel, let's call it like this, so which is devoted to transformational potential of hydrogen in developing countries. And we will have a look like on this topic from the macroeconomic perspective rather than microeconomic. And we will discuss how to ensure inclusiveness, adequate skills development for women. And I would like to start with a short intervention of my colleague from UNIDO, Camilla Daudi, who is project associate at UNIDO, and she's also PhD researcher in green energy engineering. Camilla, are you here? Yes, you are here. Great, I see you. And yes, could you just please share with us how would you address the topic of building human capital? Why it's so important building human capital for hydrogen economy? And recently we have conducted a study in 2 countries, skills assessment. Could you also please just touch upon results and tell us, yes, what are the lessons learned from these skills assessments? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria. And hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to see everyone here in this important discussion. So I would start that I think that we all agree that the hydrogen economy is moving fast. And this is because we're not seeing only the small pilot project, but also we are seeing now commitment and large-scale project investment in new job across the entire value chain. And when I say here value chain, I mean the whole process from producing hydrogen, storing it, transporting it, and then using it in several industries like steel, chemicals, and also in transport. But we believe it doesn't stop there. We also need supporting sectors like electronics, machinery, digital systems, among the others. And as we see that the opportunity is huge, but the challenge is also big because we need a workforce that is skilled and ready. And at UNIDO, as Maria mentioned earlier, we developed a methodology. This methodology to analyze the skills gap in emerging and transition economies. We tested this in several contexts, and the findings show that while new skills are required, there is still a significant mismatch between industry needs and educational training plans. For example, if I take some scenarios of our case studies, for example, in Egypt or in Tunisia, we found that curricula and training systems are not fully aligned with demand from industry, which creates a structural bottlenecks. And we noticed, based also on our benchmark, that this is not unique only in this emerging economies, transition countries, but this is also a global challenge. If I take, for example, a reference from OECD data, they show that in several European economies, more than one of the third industrial firms report this skills mismatch. And a recent survey confirmed that employers' difficulties in finding the right talent that have been steadily increasing. A second critical or most important critical insight that I would like to share here is the importance of inclusion. Women remain underrepresented in both technical education and also in labor markets related to industry and energy. And if we don't address this early, we believe that starting from schools and vocational pathways, we risk limiting the full potential of the sector. So the key message I would like to leave here is that the skill development for the hydrogen economy is not only creating specialists, but also about building the bridges between relevant stakeholders. I mean here between industry, government, and education and system, so that they can coordinate, align, and act together. And I believe this is where UNIDO places its focus. So we're looking at labor capital as a whole, providing support to address structural mismatches and ensuring that opportunities in the hydrogen economy can be inclusive and accessible to all. So I'm very curious to hear from more my colleagues from all these inspiring women here about their concrete experiences in this field. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Camila. Thank you very much. I see there were some questions already on the chat about this skills, this assessment and study. Yes, I kindly, it might also interrupt a little bit the speech of the people. No, I don't know if it's disturbing, ladies, for you when you speak. Maybe we can write a little bit later, so when I speak, so that we don't disturb the main speakers. And yes, we will provide, we will share with you the study. It's right now being finalized, so it's being designed, and it will be public very soon. I assume that maybe in a couple of weeks, and you can also find it on our website. We will put the link to the website, so there you will find the few reports and also, yes, the recording of this webinar. And now we are coming to now we are going to the South Africa, and because I really would like to hear also governmental representatives and like state representatives, because we cannot exclude their perspective from this important topic on building that important skills and career development for women. So I would like to invite Mrs. Rebecca Maseremuli. She is a Green Hydrogen Program Director at the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, and she has really rich experience in working in the state-owned, in the governmental, but also intergovernmental organizations and research institutions on green hydrogen topic. So Rebecca, please, could you join us, and how do you see the hydrogen market, a labor market, evolving in South Africa? And maybe also you can say some words about global market, and how government in South Africa is supporting women to seize these opportunities which are appearing right now. Thank you.
No, thank you, Maria, and so wonderful to see the colleagues from UNIDO. I would say one of my most favorite United Nations organizations. When we first published the Hydrogen Society Roadmap, UNIDO was there first, one of the organizations coming to us to assist us. We received great support since then. So I'm sitting in a new organization, Industrial Development Corporation, which is what we call a development finance institution. And we actually support private sector to invest in South Africa in projects in green hydrogen, green ammonia, and so forth. So I'm going to look at it through two different lenses. The first lens I'm going to use is the one I used in my previous job as a chief director for hydrogen and energy. And what we noticed is that, we funded masters and PhDs over a 15-year time period. And in the first 5 years, the share of women that we graduated was below 20%, which is on par with what happens in the engineering sector. But we found that in the second and third phase, women exceeded 35%. And the reason for that is by the time you got to the second and third phase, people were aware of the program. And because of the awareness, they were able to prepare and get into these programs. And I think, the same issue of awareness is critical also for you going into private sector. So again, a few weeks ago at the Africa Green Hydrogen Summit in Cape Town, we actually announced one of the first winners of a grant for green hydrogen, and it was a woman-led business. However, what I found is that business had been in the renewable energy sector for 5 to 6 years before it moved into the green hydrogen or renewable hydrogen sector. So I think what we have to realize is that in most cases, I know in South Africa particularly, our renewable energy sector actually is more than a decade old. So to move women into green hydrogen or clean hydrogen, really your starting point is probably the renewable energy sector or the sectors which are right next to the hydrogen sector. So I think by growing the amount of women in the clean energy sector, you are then going to grow the number of women in green hydrogen. And then also, I think this issue around transparency and knowing what's coming. One of the challenges I find is that, in South Africa, I'm not sure if this is for other emerging economies, is knowing what is the pipeline of projects that we're looking at over the next 10 years. So one of the things my office is working on is making sure that South Africa understands what are the 10 to 15 projects that will be funded. And then if you know when those projects will be funded and when they're coming on stream, that then translates into actual jobs. So what we found is that if we can take the information, make it transparent to investors, make it transparent to public sector, then if you understand what the needs for, so for every electrolyzer, you're going to need so many engineers. For every deal that goes through, you're going to need so many environmental lawyers. You're going to need so many project managers. And in knowing that, then you work backwards and you prepare women to enter those sectors and put them in whatever programs required so they can be prepared when the job comes live. And then I think last but not least, how do we increase the share of women? I think one of the important aspects that I found is that industry associations that actually have gender-based programs actually assist with keeping women into the sector. Again, it's really around bringing people to a structured environment or platform where they have the conversations. And I'm actually proud to say that I was at a workshop last weekend around women in just energy transition. And one of the questions that people asked me is, what are the opportunities for women? I said networking platforms, and I mentioned the Women in Green Hydrogen program that WiGH, as we call it in short, as a really critical organization. We have a chapter in South Africa, and I've attended meetings there. Also, I think in this thing of giving women informal sounding boards that they meet through networking, through training courses. I know UNIDO also provides opportunities for women. A colleague of mine from the IDC attended the event that UNIDO held in Korea about 2 weeks back on green steel. I heard really great things about that. So I think if the multilateral organizations can continue to do what they're doing and allow women to create those networks so they have sounding boards they can trust, so when they have questions. And I think last but not least, I would say that I think knowing, I know in South Africa, the technicians coming out of what we call technical and vocational education training colleges is critical. I know there in South Africa, there is a push towards that because technical vocational education training is not as expensive as universities. And we're going to need technicians, especially when the markets go to operational, when it's become operational. So I just want to end there and say, look, networking platforms like this, WiGH, as well as UNIDO, opportunities are critical for women to get exposure. Second, knowing the pipeline of projects and then knowing the skills requirements so we can prepare women in a very comprehensive way. And last but not least, let's start women in existing sectors like renewables so that when the opportunities come for clean hydrogen, they are ready because they've been a part of the upstream part of the process. No, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and I invite everyone to stay until the end because Rebecca, at the very end, she will also share her personal career story because it's very interesting because she has, how I said, she worked already a couple of years intensively on hydrogen in the state organizations, but it's not only. She has some other exciting parts of her experience. Yes, please stay until the end. And I actually in our program we should have representative from the Kenyan government, but I don't see her right now online. Just I will call her if she is here. Edna, are you here or not? If she is not here, we are moving to the next element of the program. Right now, I don't see her joining us, but if she joins us later, might give you another opportunity to speak. Okay, in any case, thank you so much, Rebecca, for providing us a perspective from the state organization. And now we are actually starting with a very exciting part, recruitment part. And we have 2 recruitment professionals who are already here with us, and they are also supporters of the Women in Green Hydrogen Network, and We will discuss in this session career development tips, and also, yes, looking in the private sector and recruitment perspective, analyze recruitment perspective, how women can explore opportunities in the growing this hydrogen economy, what companies look for, which kind of profiles they look for, what skills are demanded, and how to build a skill set. So we have two speakers, and I would like to introduce Elle Tyler. She is the global head of recruitment at Talent Specialist Limited, and who will share with us more her insights about the demand side. And Elle, I would like you to cover several questions from your perspective as a recruiter. Can you please share with us your experience and how do you see development of the hydrogen sector, what companies look for, and what is the role of recruiters, how also recruiters can help companies and women to match each other. Thank you very much.
I think you're on mute. Apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, very good. Great.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria, and good afternoon to everybody. It's a real pleasure to be part of today's webinar. I think it's such an inspiring event to be taking part of and sharing, you know, my insights firsthand from a recruitment perspective. There are, yes, a lot of challenges within this sector for women, but I see it that there's a lot of opportunities. It is all about how you're positioning yourself in the market. There are a lot of things that you can do practically to better position yourself to be identified for positions within this sector. You know, whether you're from the graduate, middle management, or, you know, at the later stages of your career. From my perspective and my experience, and I think that we'll all agree that, you know, there are some key barriers for women in this niche industry. You know, some of our speakers, Camilla and Rebecca, did touch on some great points. One being that, you know, there's underrepresentation across roles for women. I think that, you know, some research suggests that there's only 32% of renewable energy workforce that's actually made up from women, and there's, you know, around 10% in executive roles within hydrogen related companies and projects, and that's really, you know, a crying shame, because there's a huge benefit of having women within this sector. Another one of the speakers mentioned that, you know, there's the benefit of having a more balanced view. You know, women bring a different dimension to positions, and this needs to be highlighted. And I think that, you know, one of the key things that you can do practically is to leverage your transferable skills, make sure that you're represented correctly, and touch on the leveraging your transferable skills, especially for women in their later stages of their career. You know, it's really important that you demonstrate that, you know, you bring leadership and you know, strategic thinking from other industries, because it's all very relevant, whether that's renewable energy, engineering, or manufacturing. It's all really relevant, and that needs to be visible. It needs to be communicated in your CV, in your personal branding. Highlight any experience in managing complex projects, budgets, or teams, and really emphasize on that problem solving and stakeholder management. So those are, you know, how you can leverage your transferable skills, you know, make yourself in a stronger position to be considered. Another key thing that I have seen as being a positive activity and has generated results for women in this sector is strategic upskilling. So, you know, really absorb and delve into this industry. You know, another point that Rebecca mentioned was that, you know, network, and that is incredibly important. Leverage your network informally, formally, be absorbed in this industry, find out how you can upskill in a traditional training perspective, but also there could be other aspects and elements where you could do some vocational upskilling or workshops. You know, even attending webinars like today is really important and a valuable activity. I always believe that everything starts with a conversation. So, you know, reach out to individuals who are in this sector in a position where you would want to be. If you are from a graduate or middle management, you know, connect with those individuals that are doing the role that you would ultimately want to do. Find out their backstory, find out how they got there. There's some fantastic resources and training providers in the sector that specialise within the hydrogen space, and you can really, you know, accrue additional certifications that are, again, relevant, whether that's, you know, project management, ESG practitioner programs. There are also some fantastic courses and green hydrogen certificates that you can access through Hydrogen Europe, for example. You know, so there's lots of different ways that you can really raise your awareness, your visibility. By networking and leveraging your network, you will unearth career opportunities. I think that there's a big call as well. It's a two-pronged approach. It's individuals' efforts, but it also has to come from industry as well. And I think there's a real focus that's needed from companies to actually overhaul their recruitment mandate, their training mandate, how they're actually attracting women into their business, and what are they offering. It is all, you know, down to the fact that everything now needs to be more inclusive. There needs to be, you know, a cultural shift as well as an educational shift. So there's lots of ways that you can you know, raise your awareness, like I say. In terms of the skills that companies are actually looking, or where the shortage is, it's quite vast. Technical is a huge issue for many of the clients that I work with, whether that's green chemicals, ammonia, hydrogen. I've seen it firsthand, chemical engineering process. But then there's also the need for project management, commercial, and those that can actually be involved in the policy and strategic sustainability regulation as well. So it's across the board. I guess another point as well, going back to how you can actually practically support yourself. Tailor your CV and make sure that personal branding is tight, but work with recruitment partners, work with individuals. You know, we have a fantastic, you know, speaker today from Boss Energy, Cara, who would be, you know, a great person to connect with, along with myself. We understand the industry, we understand the challenges, we know who's hiring, and we can support companies as well who are looking to hire, you know, and even upskill their workforce. So there are opportunities out there. It's a rapidly evolving industry and market, and I think that I would see it more as a great opportunity for the next generation, and also those ladies that are at that later stage in their career that want to make that pivot. If there are any individuals, sorry, on this call that want to connect afterwards and dive deeper, then I'm more than happy to share my, you know, thoughts and recommendations. Like I say, it all starts with a conversation, and I just think that, you know, platforms like this are invaluable. bringing everybody together, sharing stories and experiences.
You're muted, Maria.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am again speaking to myself. Yes, I would like to just to bring to attention our attendees that we will be not able, most likely, to respond to your questions during this session, but we will collect your questions. And also at the end of this webinar, we have a poll, audience poll, to collect your inputs and your questions, additional suggestions, and we will organize in a couple of months another webinar session where we will try to respond to your additional suggestions, questions. And please, I just a kind reminder, please, during the intervention of the speaker, please try to send so many questions in the chat or so many comments in the chat, because these messages, they may create sound and noise, so that might interrupt also the conversation. You can do it in the pauses or after the discussion. You will have some minutes to exchange that, some your contacts and so on. And yes, now I would like to invite our another speaker. We have Kara. Kara, are you with us?
Hello, yes, I am.
Yes,
Hi,
yes.
guys.
Yes, Kara Willis. And Kara will share with us also her recommendations on how to build that the skill set. And yes, also she is working as a mentor for with women, so she can provide also her mentorship recommendations. And yes, what would you? I also have a question. Actually, you can then answer together with Elle at the end. How do you see how the difference of hydrogen recruitment market from other markets? So what are the main differences from your perspective? Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thanks everyone for joining. Always love doing things with women in green hydrogen, so it's great to see such a good turnout today. On the last question you had, Maria, I think my answer to that, I think it would be similar to something that Elle mentioned as well. But I think in terms of the difference between the hydrogen market versus some other markets, if we're looking at it in a positive light, is the technology maturity in the hydrogen market is a lot less advanced than maybe some other industries. What that can mean is if you're looking at companies who, are in early phases of development up till, and they're, working up to commercial deployment. So if we're talking about technology readiness level, like 4 to 9, because that is such a fast moving process, it means that those kind of companies tend to look for a really diverse set of skills. So, there's usually, I think Elle mentioned about talent migration from other sectors as well. That's especially key when you're looking at companies that are growing that quickly, who are at very early phases, looking for someone who's maybe experienced commercial deployment in another market. An example of that, and another reason why I agree with Elle, where it can be beneficial to work with recruitment agencies. We recently placed a candidate who, was working in a very ATEX heavy environment, not in clean energy, but was super keen to get into that space. But we recently placed them into a carbon utilization business purely because the ATEX experience he had with the explosive safeties and that operational experience was something that was super key for them in finding a role. So yeah, 100% echo what Elle was saying in terms of that side of things. I think when it comes to building a hydrogen skill set, I think when you look at it from the outside and you're not already in the sector, I think it can be overwhelming with, where to start. But the positive thing is hydrogen, like, many other climate tech fields, it is interdisciplinary. So it welcomes talent from, engineering, policy, commercial, strategy, chemistry. So the key thing is just identifying how your existing skills align with the sector's needs. And that can come down to, different things to do with policy at the time, project delivery schedules, but just aligning with what have I done at the moment, how can I transfer that into the industry that I want to be in? And a lot of the time it's a clearer path than you think it could be. I think when you're talking about what makes a hydrogen skill set, as Elle said when she was talking about the demand, it is vast. So it would depend on, you know, the part of the hydrogen economy that you are targeting. But I think generally speaking, from my experience, if we're talking about technical positions and engineering, and I think there was a question in the chat about this as well. I think common things that I see, you know, process engineering, electric chemistry, systems integration, safety standards, as I mentioned, are always big, data analysis as well. And I think when you look at transferable skills, which can move from industry to industry, like project management, stakeholder engagement, regulatory knowledge, strategy as well, they're super important things which would make your, you know, profile relevant for a hydrogen company as well. I think with hydrogen, the sort of human-centric skill sets, so maybe the softer skills, also come into play almost on equal ground, to be honest, because the industry is just moving so quickly and it is ever-changing. I think, you know, adaptability is super important in this industry. Have you built a skill set where, you know, if the company did decide to change their strategy and go down a different route with hydrogen, would your skill set fit another part of that business? So if you're looking at a renewables business, it's happened a few times where we've, you know, placed hydrogen specialists into like a IPP who initially were looking at hydrogen, had to step away from that for a while. Does your skill set fit into, you know, working on energy storage for them and those kind of initiatives as well while they work things out? So being adaptable is super important. I think when it comes to preparing your skill set, some of these points have been covered by Elle and Rebecca a bit earlier as well. So I think education and training, there's a lot of short courses out there. So a few examples, you can get them with Coursera, and there's IHE Delft, I believe it's called, and then Hydrogen Europe Academy I would recommend as well. Generally, when I speak to women who are upskilling or, you know, looking to add an additional layer to their CV, a lot of considering certifications in project management like PMP, further training in energy systems, safety, MBAs as well, I find quite common. And then memberships and networks, I know it's been said a few times, but it is super important. And I think, you know, for example, the Women in Green Hydrogen Network, that brings the mentoring aspects into things, which is really helpful to have someone who, you know, when I've done it in the past, it's not about just having, you know, a short call with someone and that's it. You know, it's about staying in touch with someone, getting interview insight and, you know, understanding how someone else has got from A to B in their career and their advice, because everyone's been in the same space at first. On the interview point of view as well, I think interview preparation is really important, especially if you're coming from maybe another industry, you want to get into hydrogen. It's about emphasizing your cross-sector experience, your leadership in sustainability, innovation, essentially just practicing storytelling your experience around the impact you've had rather than the responsibilities, because that's what's important at the end of the day. And I think in terms of, if we're talking about different entry points into the industry, I think people can get caught up with the technical side of things. I think, you know, not all roles do require deep technical expertise. You know, there's other entry routes like the commercial side of things, business development, partnerships, market analysis. And there's also the policy and regulation side, which is super important and I found super in demand at the moment, just with shaping hydrogen's legal frameworks, which are always changing. Operations and supply chain is another entry point in terms of like critical for scaling manufacturing and deployment. But essentially, like to summarize, I would encourage women to reframe their experience from adjacent sectors. I think Elle would agree that from a recruitment perspective, you know, we're not always targeting talent who are already in hydrogen, you know, that there's not enough women in the space at the moment, if we're, you know, putting diversity at the forefront of our searches as well. From a recruitment point of view, we're, you know, targeting talent from oil and gas, chemicals, manufacturing, nuclear, that the list goes on. It depends on what a company's looking for. But essentially the skill sets are transferable. And I think that can be a blocker for some people. I think, you know, there's that fact that everyone knows about how, you know, men will apply for a job potentially, or are more likely to apply for a job if, you know, they're a 60% match to the role. Whereas, you know, unless women are closer to 100%, then they don't put themselves out there, unfortunately. And I think a lot of that is the blocker of understanding of how your skills can be, you know, replicated in another industry. One more thing I wanted to mention, sorry, I'm conscious of time, the mentorship program that Women in Green Hydrogen do, and this is just relevant for even if you spoke to someone in the industry, like Elle suggested, where they are where you want to be and you're getting advice from them, anyone you're speaking to in the industry, you know, you can work with them to, you know, do some career mapping and work with them to identify what sort of hydrogen relevant roles there might be for you. It's something that we did a lot when I was part of the mentoring network before. And I think it's also important to remember that there are definitely advantages of being a woman in the hydrogen sector. You know, companies are actively seeking to diversify their leadership. You know, it's really important in driving innovation. Women bring like systems thinking, collaborative leadership, and resilience, all essential for scaling emerging technologies. So, you know, I've seen it. I'm sure Elle has in the past as well. But, you know, our clients do ask us, you know, to ensure that we're sending them a diverse shortlist of candidates. People do want to do it. It's just about, I guess, the extra layer of, you know, what else can companies do to maybe make entry a little bit easier for women. Things, an additional layer past, you know, changing job descriptions to make it more inclusive. I think just exploring what else they can do to promote women who they already have, retaining women, but also attracting women to the industry. So yeah, I think in terms of moving forward, and if you are looking to get into the sector, just audit your current skills, identify what gaps you have, engage with mentors, the network. There's a lot of WhatsApp groups as well, which, you know, you can meet people through as well. And just apply to roles boldly. You know, even if you don't meet every requirement, the sector definitely does need, you know, additional perspective and leadership, so it doesn't hurt.
Thank you very much, Kara. You know, it's very difficult to stop. It's very exciting topic, and I am sure that we could discuss. I have even like a list of additional questions, but we don't have time to address them. But I would like to repeat that we would like to collect additional questions, and that we would like to continue the series of webinars helping women, yes, to advance their career. And so I also only have one reflection, actually, because once I attended the UNIDO webinar, and I remember the recruiter said that like as an observation that the men apply even if the profile doesn't match 100%. But women don't dare to apply. They wait when their profile match their 100% to their profile. So this is already difference in the recruitment process. And yes, then the result that we have also, I believe, the less women in the recruited, no, in the process. So I think we should be more affirmative, more confident. Also, not be afraid of taking maybe the step towards the unknown. And even if we don't be, if some areas we even don't have experience, but at least we need to try. No, do you agree with me, Kara and Elle, that you see also this difference between men and women in the recruitment process?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
No, great. Thank you so much. Now we will introduce two women who managed to go through this unknown field and who actually got even inspired by this, and two different personal stories from. So I would like to invite Ndeshi Hafela and Divayele from Namibia. So she has very interesting story, and I will not disclose, but I will just say that she is also Africa Global Co-Lead at Women and Green Hydrogen. And yes, she is also an engineer and even more. So please, Ndeshi, we are listening to your story, and I hope it will inspire also other ladies.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Maria. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. It's such an honor to join this conversation today. As Maria mentioned, my name is Ndeshi Hafelandi Vayele, or Ndeshi for short, and I am an award-winning mining engineering leader. And I'm also the founder of Nabo Innovations, which is a multinational engineering tech startup. I also serve as the strategic advisory board member and Africa Global co-lead at a global network called Women in Green Hydrogen. So my journey is quite interesting. Into hydrogen industry, I did not begin within the hydrogen industry. It all began underground in a mine, literally. So after studying and working in one of the most traditional male-dominated industries, it taught me two important things. And the first, I would say, is the incredible role that the extractive resources and energy play in building nations. And then secondly, of course, the urgency of transforming how we power our economies so that we're actually able to, develop, and also doesn't come to a cost of our environment and our people. So as I grew in my career, I started asking myself, what can I do for my country and not what my country can do for me? So I thought, okay, as I grow, how can I ensure I have a positive impact on the world at large? So I always ask myself this question: how can I lead and add value in the energy transition instead of just following it? So that question eventually brought me into the green hydrogen space, a sector that is quite young here in Africa and Namibia. However, but one where we can actually, set standards, we can still create opportunities, we're still able to work on the policies and ensure it's inclusive from the very beginning. So therefore, I fused mining with the renewable energy sector together with my team at Nabo Innovations, where we are innovating technology in hardware and systems that are renewably powered. And we have started adding value intentionally within the mining industry. And now we are moving forward to adding more value in other industrial industries. So having dialogues as such really just brings women who are passionate to just go out there and be change makers in the industry. And now I'm able to even empower and serve globally alongside a number of women experts and even just enthusiasts across Africa, Europe, South Asia, Latin America. We actually launched the African chapter last year at the Global African Hydrogen Summit here in Namibia, and we are looking to also launch the North American chapter. So if there are any Americans in the room today, please do reach out to us. We definitely want to empower you in your specific continent through networking events, mentorship, master classes that are also powered by study tours. So you will be able to even go to operating sites alongside our partners to really see how these things are being implemented on ground level. So along the way, I faced many challenges, I must say. Many women here, I'm sure, can relate to this as well. Entering a male-dominated field meant constantly proving myself. I would find myself in boardrooms as the only female engineer, and I'd be like, huh? But then, you know what? Even though my voice shakes sometimes, I would still voice myself. And definitely, as Maria said, I would apply if I don't reach the actual, criteria. I would definitely apply, and I would actually get these jobs, in the beginning of my career. So I was just like, yes, let's go for it. So as a young founder and leader, I faced the struggle of also having limited resources, funding, of course, to ensure that our network is still running. But as someone who's always advocating for hydrogen within Africa and the world at large, I often have to balance global ambitions with local realities. So it's always a thing of asking myself, how do we ensure these projects benefit our communities here in Africa and not just overseas? So trying to balance all those local realities and then global ambitions has been a few of the challenges. But of course, with every challenge always comes, a lesson. And I've learned the power of networks, like Kiara was saying, and El, The power of networks is out of this world. I've been able to connect with experts within the field across the world through our network, and some are actually even adding value to my business and even just through the network as well. So having that network is just so, so powerful because no one succeeds on their own. And communities like Women in Green Hydrogen are proof of how visibility, mentorship, and even just collaboration can accelerate careers and also just open doors. So I've also learned to turn barriers into drivers. So every single time I was underestimated, I came back with fuel to innovate and even just to lead even more with purpose. And that's why I'm so happy to be in this space, because I believe someone out there can definitely catch that fire. If one person is on fire today, we can definitely ensure we can light up the whole room this afternoon or this evening. And most importantly, I've learned that leadership must be purpose driven. If we embed inclusion, access, sustainability from the very start, we create solutions that last and that uplift our entire societies. So as I look ahead, I believe success equals to people. We are here because of people, and we do what we do for people. However, developing a success mindset adoption of what value can you add will take you even further than you've ever dreamed of. So it's always important to always think that it's not always what my country can do for me, but what can I do for my country? So my journey is just one example of resilience and possibility. And I truly believe that many young women and men in this room across the globe will be able to be the ones that drive this future forward together. Thank you so, so much. And over to you, Maria.
Thank you so much, Desha. I hope that many hearts were lightened after your speech or during your speech. And I really admire this passion, this vision, what you said, purpose-driven approach. And yes, that you really voice yourself, no, as you said, to not to be afraid to voice, to give a voice to your ideas, to your aspirations. Thank you so much. And now I would like to give a word and invite Rebecca from South Africa once again, because she has her career in the very different way. Yes, please, Rebecca, you are with us. Yes, thank you.
No, thank you for the opportunity to tell you about me and my journey. I would say that, I guess the question is, when did it start? Did it start when I was in academia, when I was in the US? Did it start once I finished my PhD, which was my last degree, and get into the sector? I can't say, and then what has forced me to pivot into new places? I would say probably from really early on, I've always been purpose driven. And I remember when I was applying to university, I was a math major. And I think my math teacher said, look, I'll write your recommendation as long as you don't become like a banker. Because everyone says, okay, you work in math, you're going to be counting money, you're banking, So, I said, no, I would never work in a bank. I'm going to go into science. So end up working at undergrad and then going for a PhD because I wanted to use my science to solve world problems. And I actually started with that journey as a researcher at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, working on the role of climate change on water resources in Southern Africa. I did that for about 5 years once I joined South Africa. But there came a time in my career where I had to kind of pivot. My husband and I both have PhDs in math, and we had young kids at that point in time. And I remember there was this one, I traveled a lot, but there was this one time I was out of the country for three weeks straight. I was I think it was in Geneva, I was in Zimbabwe, then I was back to probably Paris, and it was just too much with young kids. So actually I took a bit of a step back because it was just too much to actually pivot. Now, I ended up pivoting from working in a science council to working in government because I thought that would give me a bit more flexibility, and it did, at least for about 3 or 4 years. So I worked as a deputy director using modeling, not in water resources, but in energy, looking at the impact of policy on a country's aspirations, be it around reducing greenhouse gas emissions, be it around economic development and so forth. I would say things slowed down for a bit in my career, but I got my kids through what we call foundation phase. And then once they got a bit older, a little bit more independent, then I kind of kind of ramped up my career again and started getting promotions. And then I became a director in the Department of Energy. And then about, I would say 10 years ago, I joined the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation as a chief director. And then at that level, then I was back on the road. But my kids were much older, but then I really was focused on not necessarily what's happened in the next 24 months. In science, you focus on what's happening in the next decade. How do you prepare the country? So that's how I got into hydrogen, because at the time I joined the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation, not many people were thinking about hydrogen. It was too expensive. Where is it coming from? And even at that time, people were asking funny questions about renewables. Nowadays, you know, it's in South Africa, if you don't have renewables in your energy mix, the question is, what's wrong with you? You know, so I got in very early from a totally different point of view. But really, I would say what is the most important thing is we started to graduate more women. You know, whenever I go to conferences here in South Africa, I'll say, oh, you're one of my HISA babies, because, you know, we had women who had been in our program for undergrad, master's, and PhDs. So it's wonderful to see those opportunities. But then I was in government again. By that time, when I left 7 months ago, I had been in government for 14 years. And for 14 years, I was very, very proud to say I was a public servant, right? But I think maybe about 2 years ago, I kind of started feeling a bit road weary, because I felt like we were producing policies. The unemployment rate was continuing to going up in South Africa. And I started thinking, what needs to happen differently? And really what the pivot for me was that my daughter immigrated to the US to get a job, because, you know, there's not many jobs here in South Africa. So I said, now I need to pivot towards really making sure policy happens. And, you know, policy happens through innovation, but it also happens through investment. So my job is to support private sector who are interested in green hydrogen projects in South Africa to find funding, to find technical assistance, to streamline their permitting process for getting projects on the ground. And actually, I love this job. And I broke the promise to my math teacher that I made over 30 years ago. I said I would never work for a bank, but now I work for a development finance institution, which is a fancy way of saying bank. But really, it's around making sure that projects get on the ground, making sure that we transform the sector. So again, like I said, making sure that women get into becoming entrepreneurs in the sector. And, you know, like I said, I think if my only piece of advice in terms of how I have moved up in my career is they said, to whom much is given, much is expected. So people help me because I help others. So, you know, I have mentees that I mentor on an annual, you know, on the ongoing basis, be it going to yoga classes together, be it having difficult conversations that they can't have with their managers, but also I think, you know, helping them to craft and direct what their career will be in the energy sector. And then I think last but not least, I'm here because many people have believed in me, even when I haven't believed in myself. I would say Petra, I'm not sure if she's still online, she has believed in me. When we finished the Hydrogen Society roadmap, she reached out to me and said, how can I help you, Rebecca? And even Sunita Sachapal, former head of hydrogen technologies at the Department of Energy in the US, she believed in me. Very powerful women who have propped me up on their shoulders and made me believe in myself. So last but not least, I would say my only advice is being authentic about who you are. And if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. And I think, like I said, you must go to work and enjoy yourself. And last but not least, please give back. Like I said, I have the most fun with my mentees. Like, you know, I think I'm mentoring them, but I have more fun with them. And they teach me about posting to LinkedIn and all these other things that I just don't do well at all. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to tell you my journey and my story, and may it inspire you to live your journey as authentically as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and thank you for highlighting the importance of having somebody who really believes in you, maybe even more than you yourself. And yes, and that's why I think we are here, that also to connect people with each other, and that highlighting the importance of the women's organizations and networks. And I just one question, Rebecca, to you, very, very short. I know you not only as an excellent expert, but also as a mother. How do you consider the motherhood as a bottleneck or as actually a source of inspiration and energy in your case?
Well, I have two kids, a girl and a boy, and my relationship with them is different. I would say that my daughter, it was really around being a role model. So actually, I had her very early in life. I had her when I was in the midst of grad school. So I remember my husband at the time saying, "No, you mustn't give up. You must continue because you finishing your PhD will be inspiration to her." So I think always had a great husband who inspired me, despite me taking a very unconventional path. But she inspires me. I mean, she just finished her degree a couple years ago in cybersecurity and computer science in the US. And she's free tech support for me, so love it, But I think I just wanted to be a role model. But then my role modeling to her was that she needs to have as much balance as possible. So I don't give up sleep. I don't give up my yoga classes. And I modeled that for my daughter. She just finished running a half marathon last weekend. So hopefully she listened. My son, I slowed down a bit because my son was asking me, "Where are you going? When are you coming back?" And he really wasn't handling my travel a lot, as much. He was very demanding, but I think he was able to speak up and say, "Hey, I need you more." And I did listen. Like I said, as he got older and less dependent, then I kind of went back in. I will say that again, he's very supportive. Whenever I get a promotion, he says, "Hey, I have more money to spend. Yay, mommy, good for you." This is when he was younger. He's now starting his second year of college in the US in engineering. Again, I didn't force my kids to go into technology or anything. But I'm an empty nester, so my kids are living in another country, another time zone. So I'm actually now back on the road because my kids are in another country. So this year alone, I've been on the road every other month. I've been in another country other than South Africa. Tomorrow I'm flying to Germany, my third time in Germany this year. So parenting is around timing. And there comes a time when you need to be there, a time when you have to chase them down to answer your call and stalk them. So I'm in that time when my kids are stalking them to take my call. So I have a little bit more flexibility. So I think it's a journey, and you have to do what's best for you. Listen to your inner spirit, and but last but not least, don't feel guilty. I mean, what I figure out is a mother who is concerned is a good mother. The fact that you are concerned about being a mother means that you are a good mother. So don't question yourself, because questioning yourself means that you're trying to do better. So, I mean, that's my only advice, and I'm still learning, still figuring it out.
Oh, thank you very much. So it became very honest, this wonderful dialogue and sharing your really very deep, sincere and honest feelings about your career, about your life. So we see that way to hydrogen can go from different sides, and very exciting. And we are a little bit behind of the time schedule, not a little bit, but 10 minutes about. So actually we should finish already, but I think we have, if audience allows, and if speaker allow, we can maybe continue 5-10 minutes to finalize it in a way how it was planned. So I would like to make a very short round. So maybe each speaker of today can give just one sentence of a recommendation. What do as a next step after this webinar? What would you recommend to participants of today, how to advance their career? I will start with Kara. Kara, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
In terms of next steps, I think after this call, obviously there's been a lot of inspiring advice from people who have done it all before, and I think the key thing that's been mentioned a lot is the networks and how to leverage those. So I would say, as an actionable point from this call, maybe go and connect with some people who are working in roles that you could see yourself doing in the future. Have a chat with them, ask them how they got there. I mean, myself and Elle speak to people in the industry every single day who are more than happy to speak to us. Who knows why? So people won't say no. Just be confident, go out there, seek advice, and yeah, just find out how other people have done it.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Elle.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Perfect, thank you. I would really echo what Cara just mentioned there, as an actionable point. Definitely take everything as a positive from today's webinar. All of these wonderful ladies on here have great stories to tell, and it would be great to, carry on those conversations. I'd also take a time to reflect on what your individual journey looks like and where you want to be, and maybe take some points, guidance points really from today in terms of how you can get to arrive at that destination. Is it a case of upskilling? Is it a case of repositioning yourself with your CV, your personal LinkedIn branding, and just really see if that aligns? But there's lots of positive things that you can do from today, I think. But definitely, what Cara mentioned, network, connect, start those conversations, and really have an inward look at what it is that you want to achieve, and just look at those transferable skills. That's really, really important. Look at how you can influence your transferable skills into your next step, and just be aware of what's happening in the market as well. Really fully absorb yourself.
Thank you so much. And yes, the contacts, I see that the audience is asking for contacts of speakers. You can find on the page of registration, you can click on the photos of our speakers of today, and it should also provide you the link to their LinkedIn. So I think this would be the easiest way how to have all the, and also actually on LinkedIn in our posts, all speakers of today have been mentioned. So if you go to LinkedIn and to UNIDO post on this webinar, you can find all contacts, direct contacts. So I would like also to give a word to Ndeshe. Ndeshe, maybe you can also say shortly your recommendation as a step, the next step.
All right. No, thank you so much, Maria. I would definitely say add value intentionally, whether it's capacity building, whether it's networking, attending these master classes or events. Do put yourself out there, and of course, do it intentionally, and make sure you always revert back wherever you need to.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I would take two actions simultaneously. The first action would be to join Women in Green Hydrogen. I mean, it's a very easy network to join. And the second intentional activity linked to that is go mentor someone. In most cases, you learn more from your mentee than you intend to. So go. I mean, I think WiGH has websites on LinkedIn. It's very easy, and then reach out and give back as much as you can. So something, more than some people are looking up to you, even if you don't think you should be looked up to.
Camille?
For my side, and we'll learn from all these inspiring women, I would say don't underestimate your voice. Women bring valuable perspective to shaping the hydrogen economy. So your contributions matter, and there is space for you in both technical and leadership roles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alessia, would you like maybe also to say some final words? And after this, we can have the last audience poll to collect the suggestions for the next webinar. So I'm now giving the word to Alessia, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm so inspired by all these great speakers today. So I don't really have any more to add, except if you find an interesting job, go for it, apply. And I can only echo what everybody else said, connect, join our network, and learn from the others, and don't be afraid to ask. And I will take some of your suggestions as well for myself. Yes, and then also maybe just very quickly, I wanted to let all of you know that within this webinar series that we are developing with UNIDO, we are also in parallel working on a very important study that focuses on gender in hydrogen. And we hope to be able to also collect all your impression and views and experience, because this is going to be the first study of this kind, where we're actually trying to capture what is the current status of gender distribution in hydrogen across the globe. So we hope to be able to share our our survey as soon as ready within the next months. So yes, I would highly encourage everybody to contribute to with your experience and with your data, and hopefully we will make the first study of women in the hydrogen sector.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alice. It's also we are happy as UNIDO to collaborate with Women in Green Hydrogen, wonderful network. And I also encourage the participants to check regularly our global program for hydrogen in industry LinkedIn account. So it's a group on LinkedIn where we post from time to time job opportunities, and we always encourage women to apply, because they're always under representation of women. And you can also go to UNIDO website, and there is also recruitment portal, so recruitment page, and also check regularly the jobs there, job opportunities there. Yes, really, the women, we need to believe in ourselves and to voice ourselves. So please check it regularly. Thank you.
And gentlemen.